So how are we monetizing tweets as a long-term business model? I think what you've seen the company do recently is, we've partnered with search entities. We just announced this promoted tweets, which is, I think, a first step in that direction. I think all of this, just like all of the features that the users have built and the company has made more convenient, is an evolution. And I don't think we can fully answer what that's going to look like, because we have to see how it takes and how people find it useful, if they find it useful. Certainly think they will, but it's going to evolve very, very quickly. And that's the nice thing about Twitter, is that it tends to evolve in real time, and tweet by tweet by tweet. So as we learn, as we continue to learn, and patterns emerge from how people are using this infrastructure that monetizes, it iterates and we'll further refine it. But right now, I don't know what the long-term plan is.
Not to be impertinent, how are you paying for lunch?
VCs.
Okay.
Yeah. So a lot of these startups in the Valley and in Manhattan, take a bet. And they take a bet that what if we build a massive network and get massive usage? There must be some way to monetize that usage, and in many cases there has been. Google is a famous example. It went 5 years without any sort of revenue. They were trying things all the time, and they finally hit upon one and made efficient a model that worked and scaled and sustained the entire company.
So it's a bet on discovery.
Bet on discovery, and also just general usage. And I think with Twitter specifically, we have a massive engine to point attention at various things. And this is done by individuals. You have individuals. The guy who took a photo of the plane landing in the Hudson had 20 followers. Took a photo of that event, and suddenly it was a worldwide event. You got national exposure from that one thing. And it wasn't just limited to Twitter or to Facebook. It was national and international media. So that sort of potential is just massive. So how do we best capture it, and at the same time make sure that the network and the usage is being sustained and people aren't turned off?
If you were a book publisher, as a number of people in the audience are, what would you say would be the best use of Twitter, or any advice you have for book publishers in terms of using Twitter that you've experienced has gotten the broadest audience or the best response?
Yeah. So any advice for book publishers using Twitter? I think generally what I found to be very successful is, and what I think Twitter is fantastic at, is humanizing and making things more approachable. And making things more transparent and immediate. My defining moment for these concepts was the government's usage, specifically around the elections in 2008. After Obama was elected, after his first 100 days, he gave a speech to Congress, and we had, I think, maybe 40 or 50 senators and congressmen, congresswomen on Twitter, on their BlackBerries, talking all the time before that event. And I was watching, this speech on CNN, and I was looking up, and the camera was panning around, and all these senators and congressmen and congresswomen were on their BlackBerries, and I'm like, what are they doing on their BlackBerries? That is so disrespectful. Why aren't they watching the president speak? And a minute later, my pocket buzzed, and I took out my phone, and I still use Twitter on SMS, so it was an SMS from Twitter, and it was from Senator McCaskill, who's a senator from Missouri, my home state, and she was talking about the speech, and I've never felt closer to my government than that moment. Here I was watching on national TV live a speech and seeing these people update, and then suddenly my pocket buzzed, and the senator who I just saw on TV was the one that sent that message. So that instantly brought more humanness to the entire government, which is a very amorphous, black box sort of thing. So I think when you consider like publishing is also kind of a black box to me because I don't know anything about it. I don't know about the industry. I don't know, the relationship with the authors, with the creators, with the consumers. So I think the more we can expose the workings of the industry, of how the day-to-day operations of how authors get signed, how people get books out, what people think about things like the iPad and the Kindle and the future of paper versus digital. I think there's a lot of that conversation happening in traditional media, but I think normal people care about that too, because they're consuming this content, and some people really love the feel of paper, and I for one love the weight of the book and the passage of pages, but it's not really being discussed in a very approachable way. And I think there's a number of ways one could do that, but I think what always works is you have individuals speak. If it's the authors, if it's the heads of the publishing house, if it's just various people in the publishing house, they speak from a very genuine and human voice around what's happening within this world and within this industry. That has been always successful because it's refreshing and new and not something that we're accustomed to in America with all these all the advertisements and all the indirection that we've built up around almost every industry.